Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming by. This is going to be a great time. We're going to do a couple really beautiful paintings here. This is the Extreme Beginner Series. And of course, as we're learning in the Extreme Beginner Series, we don't have to go out and spend thousands of dollars on materials, and art tools, brushes, all that kind of stuff. If you're just starting out, start out real humble. Get yourself a real simple set. We'll show you what set that is. Actually, I'll just quickly cover that. This is a Prang watercolor set, oval 16. So it's Prang oval 16. It's semi-moist paints. These are really beautiful paints. You just spray them once, 2 minutes before you're going to paint, and they get moist, and you can do beautiful, gorgeous, rich-looking colors on your paintings, right away. No worries. No squeezing tubes of paint or sitting there and waiting for your dried paints to moisten up after you spray them. These are moist, semi-moist paints. They work really great. So for beginners, this is a great kind of paint to use. And again, it only takes you literally 30 seconds to open this up, and then you're painting. Now, the second thing is we're going to do two beautiful paintings. This is more of like a Western, kind of like a scene here, a deserty type looking scene. Landscape painting, lots of water, glazing technique. We're going to cover what the glazing technique is and how you can really utilize it to capitalize on your watercolors. It's a real fun technique, and a lot of watercolor artists use the glazing technique. And in my teaching, I'm always teaching you both the glazing technique, and here we use the alla prima method. I teach you both of these all of the time. I mix it up constantly, so you learn both, and this way you can use either one, or you can mix them together however you see fit. So once you start to paint after 6 months to a year, you'll be able to use both methods interchangeably anytime you want. So this first one, just really tons of fun, and we spend most of this tutorial on this painting because it's a little more intensive with the lots of water, glazing technique. We have to let things dry a couple times. This here, vase of flowers. This is alla prima, and again, we're just going to go in and start painting with the vase, the shadows, and then the flowers, and leaf forms, and so forth. And then lastly, we add in some little bits of color along the back of the table and the wall behind. So this one goes quicker. It's a little more fun, lighter. We do more work, intensive work on this painting, and then we lighten it up at the end and just do more of a simple painting for ourselves. So let's have fun. Let's get started. And again, I want to thank everyone for coming by. Thanks for joining. Thanks for leaving your great comments and letting me know you're starting out in the beginning now. And we're just going to cover everything for you step by step. So this way there's no confusion as you start your watercolor painting, drawing and painting. You're going to have primarily two things to do. One, practice your drawing, and I'll cover that on subsequent videos. I'll be doing drawing videos constantly, so you can just draw along with me, and that'll be your drawing time. So we'll do it together, so you don't have to feel like you're out there on your own doing it by yourself. I'll work with you. We'll do it together, get our drawings done every week, and then we'll do our paintings also during the week. So as long as we're doing our drawings, and then we're doing our drawings and paintings once a week, on a weekly basis, you'll pick everything up, and you'll just continually progress and get better and better, and your paintings will look much better as you go each week and each month that goes by. Okay, so we'll start in just a second. All right, everybody, we're getting back started here. We just saw the finished paintings. We did two paintings. Now we're just going to kind of reverse engineer everything. So you saw the finished works that we did, the compositions, just now in the beginning of the video. Now we're just going to kind of go over how I did it, part by, piece by piece, part by part. First thing I did was I took some tape, 1/2-inch tape here. So we'll just check it out. We have, 1/2-inch tape here. So this is a good quality drafting tape. So drafting tape, artist tape, it works great if you can use a good quality tape. This way it'll be much more less likely to tear up the paper fibers along the outside edges where you tape. So that's just one thing to remember. Rolls of tape, they last pretty long. I usually buy a roll of tape like this, and it lasts me maybe 6 months, I guess, or so. So, but it's a good quality drafting tape, goes a long way. One of those things where you kind of have to weigh out the options when you're purchasing your art supplies. Some things you may not need to, invest too much money in things. Other things you want to buy maybe a little more quality because it goes a lot further. So a good Pro makes really great artist tape. This is the one I use mainly because, again, it's got great tackiness properties where it doesn't rip the paper up, and it also does a nice job of sealing out the water. And there's other tapes. I find the easiest tape to get, and I use this a lot, is the frog tape. Frog tape. You can get this at any of the big box stores, like the home improvement stores, like Lowe's, Home Depot, places like that. They have tons of this. There's different colors: green, purple, yellow, blue. Some of them have different tackiness levels. So some of them are very, very easy on the paper. Some might be a little more tough on your paper. But I think the green and the purple work great. Also, the yellow works really great. So you have to check out and read the labels when you buy your tape at the big box stores. But this goes a long way too. This I've had for like a year. So this frog tape works great. So there we go. We have that. And you can get it in various thicknesses. This is a 1/2 inch. I don't know if you can get the frog tape in this thickness though. The artist tape, the Pro Art tape, drafting tape actually comes in this fine thickness here, 1/2 inch. It also, you can get it in, I think, even like 1/4 inch. So you can even get thinner than that. You can get 1/4 inch drafting tape. The frog tape, I think this is the thinnest you can find in the frog tape at the home improvement stores, and that might be fine. You can use this to do your borders around your paintings. This should be fine. I'll use this. It looks better on camera, so when I'm making videos for you, I like to make sure I do a great job of doing my videos. I don't want to make things look a little bit unpleasant with colored tape, so I'll use this. So all I'm going to do is just go around the border one time, like so, with the tape. This just gives us a border around the outside edge, and I just tape it as I go. Just right around. This is a 9x12 paper, and I'm using the Strathmore. This is a very inexpensive but really, really good quality Strathmore watercolor paper. So I use this for like if you're a beginner, you're just starting out and you don't want to go out and buy the really expensive watercolor paper, although you should try it once in a while. Just go out and buy maybe one sheet of really, really expensive paper for maybe like $5, really, really good stuff. You can ask your salespeople at the art store. Say you want to try a really, really good watercolor paper, but you just want to try one sheet. Then you can bring it back to your studio, or at home you can trim it into smaller pieces and you can work on it and you can see the difference. But this is, for beginners, this is great. Strathmore watercolors, the yellow 300 series, and it does a great job. So we'll continue on here, and again, as beginners, we're extreme beginners now. We're going to just chalk it up to, we all have to start at the beginning, and in the beginning we don't even know if we're going to continue painting and drawing. We might not like it. Most of you will continue to paint and draw, I'm sure that, but maybe a few of you might say, you know what, this is not for me. I'm going to try oil painting or pastels or acrylic paintings, acrylic painting. So some of you are going to probably drift off and do some other stuff. That's fine. Charcoals, just ink drawings, maybe, whatever. There's all kinds of different art stuff. You can do sculpture. Maybe you just want to do sculpture, maybe, and just start working with clay and doing sculpture. Who knows? Or ceramics or something. So there's all kinds of great stuff you can do with art. It's not just painting, but here on this channel, we're doing everything watercolor. So there we have it. Outside border done. Now we're going to create 2 sections to this. So then all we do next is we can just divide this in half. So this was 12. So we go 6. That's the halfway point. And let me just we'll take 2 pieces of tape. So we'll just go one there. And we'll do another one right next to it. And then that gives us the two borders in the center that we need, like that. So this way when we peel up this tape, it's going to give us a 1/2 inch border around all of the paper, and then the double wide in the middle is so that we have a 1/2 inch border on each of these on both sides, if that makes sense. And we can just draw a pencil line down there so we can kind of see. And then let's do a border around our rectangles like that, just so we can kind of see the borders on camera. We're working within this rectangle. That's where all the action is, within the rectangle. So you're working in a rectangle or a square as an artist, you're drawing your painting, you're really lucky. You're kind of really lucky as an artist. You just have this one area. It's not like you're having to deal with a mile or something, or a ball field. You're working in this small area. The largest you're going to probably work in is like a 24 by 36 inches. So sometimes, yes, you'll get a large piece of paper maybe and work on that, but again, 24 inches by 36 inches, still you're really focused in on a small area, which is really good. So as artists, we're really lucky. We don't have to, it's not like we're let's say an architect, they might have to design a city or something. So you can imagine they got to deal with miles of information. We just have this one small area. So we're lucky. We can focus in on this one area and get all of our concentration going right in here. So, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop the tape now, take a quick break, because we've been working quite a bit. We did our taping methods, how we do our tape around our paper to get a nice clean border. Once we are done painting, we'll lift up this tape. You'll see the beautiful, crisp, beautiful white border around our artwork here, our paintings. And then once we do that, or once, I'll come back in like 5 minutes. I'm just going to take a quick break, and then we'll get started. We'll do our first drawing and painting, and then we'll work on a second. So we'll do 2 on this series here, on this video. And I'm sure you're going to enjoy this. And I always mention before I go, right down there on the right-hand side, the subscribe button. Please consider subscribing to my channel. This way you can get all these videos. They're really important, especially if you're just starting out in watercolor, or you've only been in it for maybe 6 months or a year, and you're not sure of a lot of things that go on with the watercolor medium. This is what I do every week for you, is I'm going over the same ideas, the techniques, the methods, all the information that you'll need as a watercolor artist to continue learning, growing. Your art's going to get better. You'll find that the more you tune into my channel and watch my videos, you're going to learn more, because you're hearing the information over and over, and that means you're going to recall it better. You're going to memorize it better. Versus if you just watch one video, you're really not going to learn very much, because you'll just hear it once, and it's and if you can take notes when I'm doing my videos, if you can take a few notes, you'll even remember more. So if you start a little notebook or just maybe a little sketch pad and you start writing down some key concepts that we're doing here, again, that'll even lock in this information into your memory much better, so that again, when you're working on your paintings at home, in your studio, in your kitchen table, or your living room, wherever you're working, outdoors in the backyard or at a park, wherever you like to paint and draw and have a great time with your art, you're going to remember all these things much more if you're watching on a consistent basis. And that's really why I say, if you subscribe and you even hit the notification bells, you'll be notified exactly when a new video that we create comes out, and you'll be learning again a lot of new information, and the same information too, over and over and over, which is going to be great. You'll remember it a lot better. You'll be able to recall it much quicker. So when you're, watercolor is a fast medium, is it not a fast medium, right? You put some paint on the paper, next thing you know, it's drying up. You have to be quick. So if you're going to be, you're working with a quick medium like watercolor, you have to have a lot of this stuff committed to memory. The techniques and methods, so that you're never going to be second guessing what you need to do. It's pretty much you're always knowing what you got to do, and you got to do it quick and move through your paintings with a good rapid pace, so that you can get things done and things aren't drying on you and looking unpleasant, and things like that. So you'll learn as you go. But I'm going to take a break. I'll be right back. We'll start our drawing and paintings. Okay, be right back. Okay, we're back from the break, and let's get moving here. Let's get moving. This is just my art table that I do my videos on. So what I did was I actually taped down my pad here so that it wouldn't move around while we were taping our paper, watercolor paper, right? So I did that. I tend to use now on my videos, I just take a sheet of pencil drawing paper, like inexpensive paper. I guess it's called newsprint paper. Newsprint paper I bought. I think it's a Strathmore too. It's a Strathmore brand. So I can just tape down a new piece of paper on top of my table every couple videos, and it stays nice and fresh and clean looking. So I use that now, and it looks pretty good. And then maybe some of you are going to start creating your own videos eventually. Maybe you'll start your own YouTube channel, and you'll do some of your own artwork on YouTube. I'm sure some of you are going to do that eventually. So being that, being the case, I'm just going to kind of show you how I'm doing things here. So that's my art table. I've got the art paper on there now. I just have my camera on a stand over the top of the table here. So we have our paper here. Then I'm going to set up my palette. So I'll bring my palette over here. And then I'll just kind of center it in the camera. The thing is, we're only going to work on one side at a time on the painting. So let's do this. Let's try to get this in like that. Maybe I'll zoom in a little like that. All right, that looks good. Okay, perfect. And I'll cover this side with a piece of printer paper. This way, if we splash anything over here, it's not going to ruin our other fresh piece of paper over here that we're going to work on next after this. Okay, so I'm going to take some printer paper. I'm going to put it over here, tape it on there, just very haphazardly. It doesn't have to be perfect or anything like that. I'm just going to tape it down so it doesn't move. So I'll just do one there. And then now essentially we're pretty much set up to draw and paint. And we have this protected over here, this side of the paper. I just have to tape this down a little better on this side over here. For this I usually use a little thicker tape. So I'll use a little thicker tape for this over here. And this is sort of off camera, but I'm just taping this pad down so it doesn't move too much, and I need to tape this down a little bit too. Okay, so we have that taped down. This is a little more we need. I always like to get everything really super secure when I'm doing videos especially, or even painting. So whether you're painting or you're making a video too, if you're going to do some YouTube videos eventually, you want to tape everything really good and secure so that nothing slides around and moves around, because that looks awful on camera when there's stuff sliding around. It almost looks like you're on a ship and stuff's moving around, and doesn't kind of, not great for video. So let me back this out just a little bit here. I want to get that palette in there so we can see this, all the mixtures that we're doing with the paints here. And I'll tape my palette down too as well, just a little bit, just so it doesn't slide around and move around. Very important. So that we're going to do. I put 2 pieces of tape on my palette just so it doesn't move around too much. This is good and secure, you can see, so everything is nice and secure, taped down. And we're ready to create some interesting paintings right now. We'll cover our brushes as we go. I'm going to use a retractable pencil. So I'm going to use a number 9 retractable pencil here. I think I'm just going to improvise here. Just going to adjust a few things here. Okay, so This is going to be a portrait style. So again, we always just talk about quickly. We talk about when we're drawing and painting in watercolor, you can orient. You can take your paper and set it up in a landscape fashion like this, rectangular, horizontally like this, the long side at the bottom and top, and the short side of the paper like this. This is your landscape view. Or you can set your painting up and do a portrait view, like so. And this is considered a portrait view. So that's all. We're just looking at these two. Which one are you going to use? It depends on your painting, what you're going to paint. You can adjust it to your liking. Some people might like portrait view better. Some people might like landscape style. Maybe people like both the same. Probably this is the more preferred. Most people would probably choose this this setup on a painting versus the portrait view. But a lot of people like the portrait too. I would say maybe 60-40. But I'd have to go back and look at my notes that I took years ago to kind of see. I think I did a little study on that years ago. And so let's get started here. Maybe we're just going to do a quick, maybe we'll do a beautiful like western scene, maybe out west somewhere, some mountains, some desert. Just we'll have fun. We're going to have just we'll break down our paper in simple terms. We'll just do maybe thirds. So we're going to do, we'll break the painting down into thirds. We have the top third, middle third, and bottom third. So here we have thirds, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And then we're going to use that as our game plan. I'm just going to improv here. I'm just going to make a level line here. This is going to be like the mountains in the background. Like that. Then I'm going to have maybe a little, who knows, maybe there's a little lake over here on the left side. And then maybe there's some interesting, maybe there's a road. Maybe there's a road coming into the scene like so. Like that. And then maybe we're going to have some mountains back here. So this is going to be a nice, fun, kind of a landscape type painting. Some mountains in the background here. Maybe there's a small house over here. In the distance there, you see a small house. We just create a little small house, very simple. Nothing too fancy. We're just doing a house shape, maybe just very simple. 2 dimensions, not 3 dimensions. 2 dimensions, we make the gable roof here in the bottom. And then we just make another roof here, like that, on the side. And that's it. And that's all that I have in that distant shape, which is a small house. So that's basically just the basic idea of that. Let me put a door on there, a couple windows. Maybe a couple windows there, over here. Maybe we won't see those details like that on the windows because it's very, very distant here in the very, very distant part of the picture. But just it's there. And I think that's really the main kind of detailed subject matter we have here. And we'll have some, maybe we're going to do some, cactuses here. A couple cactuses. We're out west. And to try to get a little more distance in the picture, I might make this a little smaller. So never feel like you can't just do a couple little bits of erasing to adjust something here. So I have another cactus over here, but I want to leave it in the distance smaller. that. One over here on the right-hand side, a little larger. And we have some lines for the roadway and some grass and things over here. We'll have a little bit of brush and weeds and things here in the foreground. We'll have a nice, big, beautiful western sky. We'll mix up some blues for that and some golds. We're going to have fun with our color mixtures here. And I think that's pretty good. Maybe we'll do another house over here. Maybe we'll just do a ranch like that. Okay, and again, this type of shape. Again, it's a ranch type house. And that's just maybe like that. Kind of a ranch house, maybe with a maybe a door there and a couple windows. You don't have to put the doors and windows in if you don't want. And this might be like a shed roof, and this might be open back here. Maybe this is the back of the house, open patio with some roof over the top, like a nice covering over the roof, a canopy. So that's the other shape we were doing there, just to kind of draw that larger so you can kind of see what I did back here a little bit. Again, these are small little indications of things. This one seems like it's too large, so I'm going to make this smaller. Again, don't feel like you can't change things. I'm going to change, and I'm improvising. That's why I'm doing a little more erasing. If I was drawing from a picture or a photograph, it might be easier. I might have nailed these quicker. But when you're doing improvising, which is great to do, and please do lots of improvising. Sometimes when you're improvising, then you have to change a little bit. You have to maybe do a little erasing. So here, I made this too big. This house should be further in the distance than this over here. So that's why I'm making it smaller like that. So this looks better now. This one looks a little bit larger, a little closer. Even though it's not a lot, it's still closer. This is a little bit more distant. Who knows, maybe we'll make maybe we'll do a windmill here. We'll do a windmill tower like that, and we'll just indications. Don't try to draw this perfect. If you can just get the basic gist of it, you can kind of see what I did there. My windmill is it's kind of small here. The windmill, it's basically just a little bit of almost like a lighthouse with some X's in there, and then the wind fans here for the wind, and then a very skinny triangle like that. So if you come up with anything looking like this, you're going to be fine. And there you have it. Okay, so now we have this, and we're in really great shape. We did our drawing. We've got our key subject matter in this picture we wanted to capture the feeling of a western scene, some ranches out here on the desert, a nice desert road with some rocks. We'll put some rocks in here and splash some desert sand in there, some distant desert mountains, a couple cactuses, a windmill. We have everything we need here, and we're going to do a big beautiful sky with lots of water. So you're going to see how we're going to just do this real simply. And again, the whole part of this is the whole thing of this is have fun with this. Don't stress over it. I kind of showed you the drawings, like simple drawings of the houses here and the windmill. So, you know, those things there, maybe you can practice it 2 or 3 times first. You can draw that 2 or 3 times first, practice a few of them first. Then you draw in that subject matter into your watercolor painting after you've drawn those a few times, just to get yourself familiar with the shapes a little bit. And the more you draw these shapes, like the more you draw houses or windmills or cactuses or whatever it is you're drawing, the more times you draw it, the better it'll be, the easier it'll be to draw it and draw it effectively, and so that it looks good. So that's all you have to remember, is repetition is the mother of skill. The more you repeat something in your drawing skills, the more you repeat something over and over, the better it's going to look. So if you practice 100 small houses like this one or this one, and you do 100 of each of these, after drawing 100 of these on a piece of scrap paper for maybe maybe a couple times a week, you draw 5 or 10 at a time. After a couple weeks, you'll be pretty confident when you go to draw like a small house or ranch type structure, because you've done it so many times. You're just going to go in there and do it. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Repetition, the more we do something over and over, the easier it becomes, and it gets locked into your mind, and you have a much easier time of just doing it effectively. So let's continue to practice our drawing. Let's continue on with this painting. Let's start the painting process next. I just want to take a quick break, and then we'll come right back and we'll start painting. All right, hey, we're getting back up to speed here. We're going to be doing our painting now. So let's take the approach of, we're going to just take a pause for a minute here and think about, okay, how are we going to do our washes here? What kind of method are we going to use for this painting? And I would say our best method here is going to be the glazing technique. So you'll hear me talk about this all the time on my channel, the glazing technique and the alla prima technique. Alla prima would be, we're going to go in and just maybe start doing the darkest darks in the painting. And then after we're done with the darkest darks, we go in and we do the lighter washes, and maybe finish up with the very, very super light washes as we go. And we really don't necessarily have to let washes dry so much. We can kind of work through the painting all at one time. So if you're someone that likes to paint for like a half an hour, 45 minutes to an hour straight, and you don't really need to take breaks, let's say, alla primas, maybe it works good. So, but for this painting, the glazing technique is really the real optimum way to paint this. And the reason I say that is because we're going to do a really beautiful watery sky and some really warm and cool colors everywhere, blue and gold in the sky. And then we're going to bring those colors down into the foreground for this. And then we're going to let that dry 100% and then go back in and do our dark details throughout this painting. So the key to this is just, we take a pause before we go in and start painting, and just think about how we'd like to do this. You could try this in both methods. Maybe you could try this in alla prima, which is just start in one place and just start painting with mostly your darks, and then you work around until finally you do your lighter washes last, maybe your sky washes last. Or we're going to do this here in the glazing technique, and that's, we're going to start with our light washes, our really watery, really heavily watery, type washes on top of this paper as we go. First, let it dry. We could blow dry it, and then we come back and do our darker darks and do some of the details of this painting. So you'll see the glazing technique here, and see how it works. And it does work really well. And again, we're going to work with our same brushes that we use on a consistent basis. We're not going with top of the line brushes. We're going to use some of these. I have these are Princeton brushes, Princeton art brushes, and I'm using a 5/8 flat brush here. So that's one brush I'd like to use for this painting. And also, I think I'm going to find a couple more that might look pretty good with this. Let's try. And then let's use the brush that we used, the brush that came with the painting set. So this is a Prang set. Again, we don't have to spend $100 on a really expensive packet of watercolor paints. The tube paints, we use this Oval 16. It's by Prang, Oval 16. And you can see here that we have plenty of great color. This is easy. You just open this up, spritz a little water on there, and you are ready to paint. No more fussing around, especially if you're a beginner and you're just starting out in watercolor. You really don't want the hassle of squeezing paints out into the palette with your tubes, and that's a mess. It takes a lot of time. If you're just starting out, you want to keep it real simple. You just have one of these prang sets or something similar to this where you just open it up, spritz some water on there, and you're ready to go. And it doesn't cost a fortune either, which is great. Hey, when I first started watercolor, I was doing the same thing too. I was trying to figure out, I can't afford to, spend $100 every time I go to the art store. So I was, trying to save on some money and stick with a budget, and that I did. Then after a while, I started getting some more brushes and, more expensive things. I'd ask for things at Christmas time and at my birthday, so I'd get an expensive brush on my birthday from one of my family members, or an expensive palette from one of my family members at Christmas time or whatever. So it's always good. Takes time to build up some really good tools for watercolor, but you just do it a little bit at a time. So now we're going to have fresh, clean water. So this is fresh, clean water. And then we're just going to add a bunch of water right onto the paper right here like this on the top portion of the sky. Doesn't have to be a ton of water, but you just want to get some water onto the paper. And then I'm going to carefully bring it on down into the mountains, which is fine. Then once I get to the ground area, I just want to leave some lights where this road is here. So this little strip of roadway, I'm going to leave that white paper, and I'm not going to actually add water to that. I'm going to let that just be. And I'm not going to actually add water over here either. I want to leave a light patch of like a 7. So if you can imagine, I'm leaving white paper and I'm not putting any water on it as I'm painting right now. So I'm adding water to both sides of this, but I'm leaving this open. Let me draw that quickly. So with this painting here, I'm just basically, here's the mountains, here's our portrait, here's the mountains. I'm wetting all this area up here of the sky and in the mountains. I'm wetting that with water, but I'm leaving a patch of like the number 7 here, like so. I'm leaving this dry. I'm not putting any water here, and then I'm putting more water over here and over here too. So I'm just leaving like a 7 or a T type shape there with paper with no water on it. I don't want to get any water on that part of the paper. And somehow I got a little bit of printer paper ink on my watercolor paper. Not a problem. I can work with that. It's kind of a tan color. Actually looks good. Let's leave it right in there. That's going to look nice with this painting because it's a desert painting. So we like the desert colors, tans and browns and stuff like that. So again, let's put some water up here in the sky. We want to make this a real beautiful wet sky. And then again, some of that water into the mountain areas and over here on the right and the left. And then we're just leaving that 7 shape with no water on there and just leaving that white paper. And let's see how that works. Okay, now let's do some beautiful blue for the sky like that. That looks really good for the blue sky. Then maybe over here on the side, I'm just going to mix up some brown and some black, just for maybe a little bit of a hint of a dark color in that sky. Some gold over here. We're going to put some gold and some brown and some orange. We'll make some. It's going to be a golden color for the sand. And then some green. We want some green over here. We want to make that a little more. Add some brown to your green to give it that more of a green, kind of a warmer feel, brown. Maybe a little bit of gold and orange too in that brown, in that green. That looks like a pretty good kind of a green. All right, so those are our colors for the most part. And then maybe some, we'll put some red up here too. We're gonna have a little bit of red and brown for like a burnt sienna color. So those of you that maybe watch my other videos and you know my other palette, sometimes I'll just refer to mixing a color. This is brown and a little bit of red. And it kind of makes like a burnt sienna kind of look to it. Maybe a little more brown. Maybe some cadmium red. And yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay, there we go. Okay, now, again, a little more water. All right, let's do our sky color. Let's start out with some gold up here. Some gold over here. Then let's get the blue. And we'll just let that flow down the paper. Look at how good that looks. Does that not look good? Look at that. We're just letting the water and the paint do all the work. We're not doing much work here. We're just getting it on the paper. We pre-wet the paper again. You saw how we did that. There we go. And then maybe we'll just take a little bit of dark here. And maybe add a little more of that blue. I want to get that a little darker because it dries lighter. Remember that watercolor always dries lighter. So if you can kind of put it on darker a little bit than you think it is, it'll wind up turning out good. If you go too sparingly, it's going to be too light of a color, a tonal value. So add in, don't be afraid, add in some of that darker dark, and then I'm just adding in a touch of that black mixed with a little bit of brown. Just a little dark spot, maybe that's a little rain cloud up there, a happy rain cloud floating above. Okay. Now we're going to get in it, do our golds and oranges here. Like that. And then again, I like that darker look, right? The tonal values are a little darker here. I'm using more paint. Yellow, orange, brown, and I'm using some of that darker dark. A couple of splashes, and then a little more of that yellow here. A little bit of that lemony yellow here. Let's add a little bit of that. But I want to keep this kind of that 7 shape looking good, where that white paper is. And if you have to lift up a little bit of the water, you can see that water's kind of paper towel, like that. Then we could take our round brush that we have. We could take that round brush and we just carefully go in. Now that we've got the main colors on our paper, we're just going to look around and we're going to say the sunlight's coming from this direction. So we're just going to make sure I'm going to splash on some sand kind of a feel. So I'm just taking my brush, adding a little bit of this paint here, and just doing some splashing. If you see that, if you find that there's an unpleasant looking mark on your paper, you can try to lift it a little. So I'm lifting up that a little bit of that dark spot that kind of flowed down the paper. You can gently lift that up with some paper towel or tissue, just so that we get that kind of under control there. It didn't look so good, you know, kind of looked like a tornado or something, an odd looking tornado. That did not look too good, I have to admit. So here we go. We're going to continue on, and we're going to add some greens here for the mountains. So here I'm picking up those greens, and this really helps. Does this make sense? If you pre-mix your colors like we did here, you've already got it mixed. So then when you put the water on the paper and you start working, it's a lot easier because you're kind of flowing and you got everything working for you. You got all your colors already mixed, and then now you're just going back and forth, and you've got everything under control. If you were to try to start mixing this once you put the water on the paper and you start painting, and then you're going in here and trying to figure out what colors you're going to mix, it'll never work that way. You have to really get your colors out first. Does that make sense? Get your colors out, mixed up first here over this way on your palette. Then you start your painting. You add your water on, and then you just start using your water or your paints and bringing it over to your paper and adding it on here and getting it onto the paper. So that's exactly what we're doing. There's no real mystery to this. This is not rocket science. This is watercolors, and if you just stick with the methods that we teach here on my channel, you're going to have a fun time with watercolors, and I think you'll agree that if it's fun for you, you're going to keep painting, having a great time, and that's the main thing I want, is everyone to continue painting, because you can have such a great time with watercolor. You can take watercolors with you on vacation. You have a little scrapbook and a sketchbook with you. You bring it on vacation with your palette. You can do some paintings. It's great. You have a little memory sketchbook of memories of vacations, or if you go and visit somewhere, or if you just want to go out for any given weekend and go out and around where you live and do a couple little small paintings, you'll have so much fun with it. And, you know, not only are you painting and drawing all the time at home in your studio or in your place where you live, you know, you might be working at your kitchen table or in your, you know, on your easy chair, you know, maybe in an office, home office or something, or maybe you're on the road a lot traveling and you're doing some stuff in your room where when you have some time. Whatever the case is, I know everyone out there has different situations, but the main thing is, if you're having fun with it, you can incorporate it and make it a part of your life, and then it becomes much more meaningful and fun, and you will be much more likely to keep painting and having a great time with it versus giving up on it. And so that's why I try to give you as much information as I can. So here you can see I'm just adding in some warmer colors to the greens here in the mountains, and I think we're pretty much, and again, the less fussing you can do with this, the better it's going to look. So you can see I didn't do a lot of fussing around with things. I kind of got it on there good. I left some of that white paper, and what I think now is the best thing, let's take a break and let this dry a little bit. You can see the paper's buckled, and let's let this dry, and then we're going to come in and do some details over the top of the dry paper. I'm going to use a blow dryer to blow dry this off. This way it'll look so much better when we have dry paper to work on, because if you start working with paints and darker paints now into this wet paint that you've just painted, it's going to blossom and bloom and cauliflower all over the place, and you'll be tapping with your stuff and tissues and paper towels, and it'll look terrible. So the main thing is, if you can just get this done in 2 glazings. The first glazing, the lighter washes like we did here. You see how I did that? You see how I did this little dark cloud here? That looks pretty good. And it's going to dry off a lot lighter. You'll see once we dry this off. And you let this dry, blow dry it, or let it dry for like a couple hours, and then you come back over and you do your final details of your distant houses here, your ranch. We'll do this windmill, some of the cactuses. We'll speckle on some more paint for the desert feel, a couple directional lines. You'll see it's going to look really phenomenal. And again, it's not that difficult. It's just really following the steps. So I'm hoping you're going to follow the steps here. It's real simple. Just remember, it's the light washes first, just like this, and then let it 100% completely dry. And then next, right after this break, you'll see we're going to go in and do those final details. And then it'll be it. That'll be the painting. And you'll have a gorgeous painting. You can put this in a frame if you want, or tack it up on the wall, or maybe give it as a gift to somebody. Whatever you want to do, that's fine. But let's take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll finish this up. Okay, we're getting back up to speed here. We took a break. We took a blow dryer. We dried off our painting. It was super wet. We used tons of water on this. We let that water flow down there. The colors, all the water and colors. Wow, it just flowed on down the paper. We made sure to leave our white paper in that 7 shape, as you can see. We wanted to leave some of that white paper there so we didn't wet that part of the paper, but we wet the other sky areas, mountains. We wet the foreground here on both sides, but again, we left that bit of white paper for the ranch houses here, and then that little bit of roadway here. So this way we have that nice little 7 shape that looks really good. And now we're going to go in and do some darks to finish up our painting here, and it looks really good so far. Now the key is not to go overboard with too much detail. Let's just sort of think things through here and say to ourselves, all right, we've got the majority of the watercolor on the paper. So once we have that kind of fact situated in our mind, now we can just say, all right, we need some darks, some really dark darks, but we don't want to use much water at all. We actually don't want to use any water at all. We might just give this a spritz. Just a quick spritz there, and we're going to get some darks. And we already have a dark over here. We made this over here. This was a black, our black and some brown mixture, so that's going to be good. We have some red here too, kind of like that nice kind of that clay red kind of look. So let's start working our colors in here, our darks. Let's start out with our tower here. We have a windmill like that, and if you need to, sometimes you can even incorporate a small Sharpie pen or something to do some, no one's going to see that. If you're doing some really dark darks, like with dark black paint, brown and black paint mixed, you won't see the Sharpie. You won't be able to tell the difference that I use a little bit of a Sharpie marker here. So do that sometimes. If you're painting and you see, wow, I can get away with using a little bit of Sharpie marker in this painting, do it. And here, we're just going to do some marks like a wheel, a fan, the fan blades coming out, and then we had that little shape like this. So there, I accomplished what I needed to with my Sharpie marker, so I didn't have to suffer through that with a brush that cannot get that kind of detail. We need that really fine detail, right, of those steel cross members in this windmill. Now, if we tried to go in there and do that with this paintbrush, I don't think we could accomplish it. It would look really messy and not look good at all. So that's why try to have a little bit of a backup plan. So always know you can bust out your Sharpie marker and use it in a painting if it's going to work. And like I said, if you're mixing darks anyway, black and brown, really super darks, you can put this in your painting. No one's ever going to notice that. Okay, and then we'll put that red spot maybe here just to give it a little color. Maybe another little dab of red there like that, just to give it a little excitement. And then we'll do some more, maybe some green and dark black and green, dark black and green. This black in this set is super dark. It is really just a touch of this dark black from this praying set here. It really goes a long way. So let's try this and let's get the dark black and red. Let's do our cactus here. The cactus is a little more thicker, so I can use this brush. I just rest my hand on the paper. So if you can imagine, I got my hand on the paper like that, resting. And then I just move the brush like that, up. And again, you have to practice these techniques a little bit to get used to them, or the more you paint, the better easier it's gonna go for you. Then you can lift up some paint here and there like that. Sometimes it's good to lift up a little bit of paint. It gives like a little feeling of light. And there's light coming from here. Maybe a little shadow going back there. Like that, so you can add some shadows. I'll do that there. Some splashes with that dark paint too. And again, I'm really going to go minimal with this here. I'm not going to go a lot with these details. Again, it's going to really, that's the key, is holding back sometimes and not doing as much. That really can make your paintings look absolutely phenomenal. Too many details can really ruin things. So I'm just going to do this, add some more green to these hills, just like that. And there's some darker hills here. So I'm just flicking on the paint there, I'm getting it on. And I'm going around this ranch house here. You can see. Like that. And you can lift up a little bit of paint there if you need to, or here and there. Trying to get some of those mountains in the background, kind of undulating back there. Then we can go with some of that darker paint around this area. Some green, some green, some green, and maybe some brown. So sometimes you just mix up a little bit of paint here and there. So that's a little bit of the green there around this area. There's maybe some trees and so forth. And I think we're getting a little bit of a power surge here. My lights are flickering. I think there's a solar flare going on right now from the sun. So we have to cope with that. And again, some more splashes. And we could add a little door, maybe a happy door on this little house here. Maybe another door on this ranch house. A couple windows. We can maybe shape out this roof a little better. Like that. A couple bushes there. And again, you want to go very sparingly with details. Maybe a little bit of blue over here. That lemon yellow. Put a little bit of that lemon yellow here. A little bit of the gold color. Okay, I think that's good for the for these distant hills. I think we have it. We don't want to go, again, too much details can really cause a problem. There we go. And maybe a little bit of gold on this roof, like that. Maybe a little bit of gold over here on this side. There we go. And you can see very sparingly details. And then now, maybe we're going to take some red and we're just going to have maybe a couple of marks here on the paper. A couple of weeds like that. Again, use these very sparingly. Maybe splash on some, very lightly splash on over here in the foreground for the sand and that sand type of feel. And there's a little bit of, there's some, maybe a dark or two over here. Once this dries a little bit, you might be able to scratch out a couple lights. This is always good to do. Some directional lines. Finger painting a little bit, you just take your finger and drag it across the paper. You could add some greens to this in the foreground. Just a little bit of color. You could scratch out a few lights like that with your thumbnail, or you can use a anything you might have that you think like the. Sometimes I use chopsticks. I have chopsticks that I use all the time. I use them to do some scratch marks. So I just have a chopstick and then I use a small knife and I just make a little point on it. So you can make some really nice details like that for yourself. Some highlights like so. And I think that's good. I think we really have gotten all the detail we want to get in there. We don't want to, again, go overboard. Too much detail will ruin a painting, that is for certain. So always remember, you can always go back in a day or two later and think to yourself, oh, maybe I'll add something later. Better to tell yourself you're going to add in things later, but stop short of finishing your painting versus keep adding things in. Then it's too much stuff in the painting and it looks distracting. So you can kind of see I didn't do much detail here. I did enough that, so let's peel off our tape, take a look. And we're going to do another painting just in a few minutes. We're going to continue on with this, but we just wanted to get our first painting done here and see how this looks. And certainly this looks really nice. It looks pleasant. It looks like a positive, pleasant painting. Tons of beautiful water washes, that really gorgeous signature look of a watercolor with tons of water on there. And a gorgeous scene, a desert scene here. We got beautiful desert houses, some ranches, and we have ourselves a windmill and a couple. We have a nice looking cactus there and some brush and weeds in the foregrounds. Here we scratch out a few lights when we paint over that dark paint. Then we scratch out a few lights after it sits for about a minute, 30 to 60 seconds. You can scratch out a few lights like that. And I think that really looks good. You can always sometimes too do a little bit of finger painting. You can blend out some stuff if it looks too. I went over onto my edge here on my where I taped this off, but that's okay. We put a mat over the top of this anyway to finish it off and put it in a frame. So if it comes out really good, everybody, put a mat on it and frame it. Why not? Set it up in your house, maybe give it as a gift, whatever. All right, so we're done with our first painting here. I think it looks really good. I'm thinking you're agreeing with me. It looks really good, and I'm sure you've done a great job completing this painting as well. And I'm sure you'll try it again, even maybe 2 or 3 times you'll work on this to get the right effects and the right look you need. And we'll start with another painting in just a few minutes. I'm going to take a break, and we'll come right back. We'll clean up our palette, and we'll start with a new painting. Maybe we'll do something a little different, maybe a shore scene or some flowers. I'm going to think about it when I take my break, and we'll come back and start another one. Okay, we just changed our setup, so now we're going to do our second painting. We're just going to do a real simple flower arrangement in a flower pot. We'll keep it real simple. We worked really hard on our first painting, so that desert scape scene that we painted, that took us a lot of time. We went through a lot of different methods and procedures. Let's keep this a more simple painting right now. So we'll kind of start out with just a simple idea. Maybe we'll have a table about 1/3 up. We'll have a table across here. I'll just make a line, and I'm using the other side of the paper. We started out with the one side of our paper where we did our desert scape, Western style landscape painting over here. And now we're going to use the other side that we already had pre-taped. Maybe I just need to tape down my palette here, which I did not do. Let's do that. So sometimes it's good not to overwork and do too much, Maybe at times we'll do a more difficult, challenging painting, and then we can then change it up and do more of a simple painting. Paintings actually take a lot of energy to concentrate and focus on all of the different methods and techniques and processes we're using. It definitely uses energy, and it can make us tired, actually. If we're painting 2 or 3 paintings in a day, we'll feel tired after that, actually, from all that concentrating and all the effort we put in. So we did a lot of effort on that first painting. This one here will go a little bit less intensive. Let's do this here. We're just going to do a simple vase with some flowers in there. Let's try this. We're going to try to fill up our subject matter here in our rectangle. So here we're working within this rectangle, this space right here. Let's make sure we fill it up with subject matter. We wouldn't want to draw now a vase like this size with flowers in it. That would look really unpleasant. And when we have all this space here, let's use up this space and get some good amount of subject matter in our picture frame, our rectangle. And I'm going to just tape this down a little more too as well. There we go. Just want to tape that down a little bit more. Perfect. Okay. So now I'm just going to go up and I'm going to do this. I'm going to contour draw, which means I'm just going to start in one spot and then just continually draw as I go. And I'm going to try to do some flower shapes over here. So I'm just trying to follow the picture in front of me. It's a picture I really can't put online because it's has a copyright claim on it, so I really can't put it in my video. So it's best too if you can work from my finished painting. So here I'm just working around this. There we go, and we're okay, there we have it. A simple vase, some flowers, couple more stems and leaves forms here. I think that looks pretty good. A little bit of a shadow underneath the vase here. Lights coming from over here. We'll make our insignia up here. So the light's coming from here. Okay, looks good. Maybe we'll just erase a few lines here and there if we want, just to and we're ready to paint. And I think we're gonna, maybe we'll use our Simmons here. We have a number 6 Simmons round brush, and this is a synthetic brush. And again, when you're starting out, this is, Extreme Beginners series, and so you're probably brand new at drawing and painting in watercolor, so you're not going to go out and be buying a $100 brush and for watercolors. You're starting out, you have some simple brushes, inexpensive paper, inexpensive palettes. These happen to work great too, these prang palettes. But the key is, when you're starting out in the beginning, you might decide you want to do oil painting for some reason. You might decide you're going to do sculpture and you don't really want to work with drawing and painting. That's fine. Everyone is different. Sometimes in your art endeavors, you might decide you want to change up and do something different, maybe pastels. There's so many different things you can really get interested in and learn about with art, photography. There's just so many. So always remember, keep your options open. Don't feel you're locked into something. Maybe it may not be for you, painting, drawing and painting in watercolor. I think most of you can do it, and most of you would actually do really well at it. But you have to, really have that, really desire for it, that excitement about it. And if you feel that little bit of magic and excitement, then you just keep going and keep going. And then eventually you'll start to pick up more and whatever. But, in the beginning you start off humble and minimal things. You don't have to invest too much in it. And so I'm ready to go here. I got my brush we're going to use, some fresh water in our water pail. And then this here we're going to do alla prima. We'll paint this all at the same time. We're not really going to do any glazings. The first painting we did the glazing technique, recall. We did the whole painting in a light wash. Then we went over with our subsequent darker washes. This we're going to do alla prima, which means we're just going to go in and start painting. And probably starting with more of the darker colors, the darker tonal values, and then work out and finish up with some lighter tonal values in the painting. So I'm going to go with some, let's see, we're going to use some purple and some red. So I'm going to try to mix a little bit of a light pink color for some pink flowers, light pink flowers, a little bit of purple in there. Put some purple up here. We're going to keep this a light painting too. It's going to be very light. We're not going to probably be going in and doing a lot of darks in here. Some, but not too many. Okay, so we've got that pink. Looks good. Maybe for the vase we use some orange and gold. Yellow and orange. Maybe a little touch of red too. Maybe a little bit of some greens. So we'll just mix up some greens over here. We can, a little bit of brown mixed in with our greens, a little bit of orange maybe. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm just going to get my apron on. Okay, so now we're going to start, and we'll just have a fun time and get some colors going here. And again, maybe some more of that green up there with some gold and green, yellow and green. That looks pretty good. Maybe some blue. Okay. Okay, I'll do a leaf form here. And another maybe over here. And another leaf form over here. So I'm kind of doing some of these dark leaf forms first as I start out in the bottom of the vase here. And some yellow in there too. Have fun, just get some of those dark green leaf forms in there. Maybe some of that orange, or we're going to start going in and doing some of that orange color for the vase. bit of shadowing in there. So I'm doing the shadow color underneath the green leaf forms for the vase. Light's coming from this direction, so quite a bit of shadow into there. And then we're going to just do some orange and dark orange, light orange. We'll make this vase colorful. Then we'll do a shadow color, maybe some purple. Maybe mix in a little bit of brown with the purple. A little bit of the orange too. And there we have it. A good definite shadow there for the vase, and then as it projects outwards where the other flowers are, we just make it a little lighter. More water, less dark. We don't want it as dark now. We kind of have the vase of flowers like so, like that. And then we can go back in and add a little bit of that purple for the darker area here. It's a little darker next to the vase. Then it starts to get lighter as the shadows move outwards. They get lighter. And then again here we'll add some more of that purple straight out of the paint pan here. I'm not mixing any water into this, just straight paint. Want to get some shadow under there. And I think the key with this is colors. We're really excited about the colors here. Aren't the colors great? Wow, look at that. We're mixing all the colors together. You can mix them a little different if you want. I'm going to splash a little bit of the pink color in there. Same thing in the vase. And then I'm going to start doing some of those pink flowers here. So I'm going to try to make a pink color with some red and a touch of that lavender type color there. There we go. And I'm going to leave some room. We will be painting in some of these stems and leaf forms. Maybe some of that purple over here. A little bit of splashing. And the key is to just have fun with this, mix up the colors, you know. Let's not just take one color like this here and just take this all and just start filling in the whole bouquet. Let's take some of this color here and there. Leave some white paper in there. Don't fill it all in, please. Please, please, please. Leave white paper in your bouquet. I'm making small flower shapes, petals, I should say, petal shapes here and there. And then at the top of the flowers, I want them to be lighter. So I'm going to use lighter washes there and here and there. Okay, so I left a lot of white paper. Let's go back in and get some of our greens. Plenty of greens all mixed around here. And we'll start doing some greens here and there. Just kind of mix them in. Follow the pencil drawing we did. So we did some of that pencil drawing. Very important to get that pencil drawing in, right? This way you have like a blueprint for yourself underneath as you're painting. Then you can kind of say, all right, I got to make sure I stick with my game plan here. So I'll do some more of these green flower shapes, and then this one here, maybe I'll go, you can just go off and grab another green color here. Maybe I'll just dip into that and see what happens. Look at that. Wow, nice. It's a lighter green. See that? So we want to kind of modulate your colors, change your colors as you go. We want to avoid that, like just using one color and painting and painting and painting and painting with one color. You can see how it's really good. We'll mix, we get our colors out on the palette first. So you saw how we started out. We got some colors, some greens with browns, some greens up here with some oranges. We use some straight paint right out of the palette to get some really bright greens. We mixed all the purples and oranges and yellows and here for the vase. So I'm constantly trying to use the whole enchilada here, right? Let's use the whole gamut of colors here in our palette if we can. Let's use a lot of them. Warm and cool, warm and cool. We want to always have that mantra. Warm and cool, warm and cool. We just wouldn't want to make this all a purple vase, purple flowers, purple shadows. Next thing you know, all we have is purple. That would not look good at all. What makes this look exciting is all the mixtures of colors, and that's all you have to remember. Use plenty of color. You can't go wrong with using too much color. You know, especially in the beginning. Have fun. Just use lots of colors. Get them out there on the palette, mix them out, look at them, say, yeah, that looks pretty good. The greens are for the leaves and the twigs and things like that, right? And leaf forms. We do that. And then we have our purples and pinks here. And some purples and pinks here for our flowers. And then our vase was purples and oranges and reds. And purples here with a little bit of brown mixed in there for our shadows, like so. And then voila, look at this. We already have everything 90% complete. And again, this is the Alla Prima. You can see we just went and got in here and just went for it. We painted the whole picture now. We're pretty much 100% done here. Only thing left we have to do is maybe we'll do a little bit of splashing for our flowers, just a little more. I like to add a little bit of splashing. It kind of gives it like a light feel, a feeling of lightness. Like there's some baby breath in there, some other light, intricate flowers and plant material. And then over here on the side, we can get some red and orange. Maybe make a little bit of a color behind the table. So we're pretending that this is our table here, a white table, and then behind the white table we have a wall. And let's just say this wall is mixed with some mixtures of the colors we already used. And that's all we have to do. Add a little bit of that mixture we already used. Any of the colors, probably good to just mix a little bit of everything in there. Like that. A little bit of splashing. Rinse off the brush, dry off the brush a little bit on a tissue or a paper towel. So if I take a paper towel, I rinse my brush off, dry off some of the water on a paper towel or tissue, and then just lightly blend in the wash we just put on here so that it kind of fades up real lightly into the white paper. So this paper has this painting has lots of white paper in it. You know, we could splash around a little more warmth. Maybe some orange in here. Just scrub on a little bit of orange. Maybe that looks really good, that kind of warm feeling. So the wall behind the flowers is like a warm, maybe cool too. We'll put some purple in there. So some warm orange wash, just lightly. Damp brush, not too much water. Just scrub in a little bit of, so much light touch of orange. And maybe some of that red that's mixed in. A couple splashes. Maybe some purple. So then we'll take a little bit of coolness and use a purple. A couple splashes of purple. Maybe a little damp brush to move some of that purple around a little bit. So we have a wall here with some texture to it. And we can go in and get some purple here. If there's too much water floating on your paper, you can lift it up like that with a paper towel. That works really effectively, a paper towel. You just dip the edge of the paper towel right where the puddle is, and that puddle will just come right up, and then you can get more of your desired color in there. So I want to add a little powerful accent of purple there, and maybe a little bit of maybe red orange over here too, like that. Then maybe a little green mixed in there, like that. Same here, a little bit of green. So I'm just kind of dabbing that in. Maybe a little bit of yellow with that purple. And that will really make a good crisp edge along the back of that table. And I think that's, let's call this finished. This is a really beautiful flower painting. I hope you enjoyed this. We kept this one light, fresh, quick. We didn't spend a ton of time on this, but you can see you can get a really beautiful, flower painting done pretty quickly using some real beautiful techniques, just the alla prima technique. You're going in, you're starting, with a preset mix of colors you have in your palette already ready to go. So you're not trying to work and mix and work and mix. You get everything out on your palette. For the most part, you try to get most of what you need out on your palette, and then you start working from that. Then as you go, you can go straight into your paints without using any of this here, because you're essentially using the same colors all the time, so you don't get too worried with your colors and what to use, because you kind of just know, okay, I want a darker purple maybe for my flowers over here, maybe in a spot or two. When you can do that, you can go straight into that purple paint right there and do a couple little spots of purple, and then soften it, rinse the brush off, damp brush, dry off some of the water, and then you can kind of soften that up a little bit if you want, like so. So you can do a little bit of adding some bits of interesting darks and lights here and there. So you can do that too, just to maybe do a few different more exciting bursts of color. If you want to do that, that's fine. Once you kind of have everything in there the way you like it, then there's no reason why you can't add a couple of those little, accentuate things a little bit with a little more powerful color in there, which is just your straight paint right out of your pans, and not so much using some of this, which we've already mixed, and it's very light. It's not strong. This is a much more, can you see how that's a darker tonal value? That's how you get your darks. You're just going in and grabbing it right from your pan, from your wells, your paint wells. That's how you get the darks. And if you need the lighter washes, you're going in and mixing them here and adding a little water to it to get your lighter washes, like those over here in the on the wall here. That's about it. I hope you had a great time here. Again, thanks so much for coming by. So happy that you are coming along on this great journey. We're doing the Extreme Beginners series right now, which is, we're starting out in the beginning, kind of just going over the basics of all that you need to get started with watercolors, your tools, your brushes, your pencils, your paint, your palette, your paper, and then just your straightforward paintings and drawings and paintings of just, things that are more simplified, where we can work here and effectively kind of go over everything as we go, and then you can just go ahead and repeat this process 2 or 3 times at your own leisure, and you'll turn out beautiful paintings like this. A nice simple flower arrangement in a vase on a table, and that's really very simple, but yet it's still very beautiful, very colorful, has a nice feel to it, a nice light, good feeling of it. So we'll see you on the next video, everyone. Again, thanks for coming by. Thanks for subscribing. and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.